What's up YouTube community, Brent here, welcome back to another video lesson. Today we'll talk about the really unique and quite dissonant sound of the diminished scale. We already talked about working with different diminished chords and arpeggios in practical examples on this channel, but we never really took the time to talk about the diminished scale in detail. This topic is really important for me personally because a lot of rock and metal guitar players always focus on these same kind of patterns whenever they encounter a diminished chord. Often players only learn one diminished chord voicing or one diminished arpeggio shape and completely rely on the symmetry across the neck. While understanding this kind of symmetry when we are talking about diminished chords and arpeggios is really important, and obviously I also love including those phrases in my solos, it's also very important to have some alternative approaches ready. So let me show you the diminished scale position I'd like to discuss with you today. So as you can see, for this scale we're just alternating between whole tone and half tone steps. This is exactly the reason why this scale is often referred to as whole half diminished scale or whole tone half tone diminished scale. We can use this scale to effectively solo over diminished 7 chords. So as you can hopefully hear with this super short lick, it really brings out the cool and dissonant sound of these chords and already sounds a bit more interesting than just working with an ascending arpeggio shape. As soon as we get a bit more creative with the phrasing, it has a lot of potential to get really interesting. On a side note, when we turn around the pattern of whole step half step to half step whole step, we get a different scale. And so on. This one can be used over dominant 7 flat 9 chords. Right there we are entering very jazzy territory. Let me know if that's interesting for you, we can discuss it in a different lesson. So the first cool thing we could do with the scale, which makes improvisation a little bit easier, is form a more symmetrical pattern that is shifting up the neck. This one is quite interesting because we get a 4-note per string pattern that we move across different strings, and we actually never talked about 4-note per string scales so far. So there are plenty of really cool possibilities for creative licks right here. If you want to start with the root note on the low E string, we have a 3-note per string phrase that we could also turn into a 4-note per string phrase by including the 7th. But let's start with A, B, C. And then we have our first 4-note per string phrase starting with D. So half tone, whole tone, half tone. This might take some time until you get used to the stretching right here, especially if you have never played a 4-note per string pattern so far. But as I said, it will open up a lot of cool possibilities to write some interesting licks that way, because you have more notes you can group. And then we're just ascending using the same pattern, moving up 1 fret each time. And then we arrived at the B string. We have to move up 2 frets, of course, due to the different tuning here. So we are playing symmetrical until this point, but then we have to move up 2 frets on the B string and end the pattern here on the E string using the same phrase. So this one might be a bit easier to memorize in the beginning, but I chose to feature the other approach because it doesn't have those 4-note per string phrases. As I said, it might take some time until you are used to playing those because of the stretching that is required. Another really cool shred guitar trick that we can utilize with those 4-note per string phrases is tapping, of course. And that is actually quite fun and useful because we can assign the last note of each pattern to our tapping hand while we're pulling off and playing the rest of the notes with our left hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So a bit faster with a more interesting pattern. So that sounds pretty cool and dissonant, but not too chaotic, like just playing random notes. We are actually working with a defined musical system here, and you can use licks like that whenever you encounter a diminished 7th chord. You can find another cool little arpeggio shape or trick in the other scale position we discussed in the beginning. Here one of the main benefits is this little section. Since it is completely symmetrical, we're playing, then we alternate, then we're playing, and then once again. Quite easy to memorize. The only important thing to have in mind is where the root note is located at, and that would be A, here in this case. So with this little pattern that you can memorize, you actually find this arpeggio shape in there. And this one is really useful for diminished licks because you can play something like that. So you can easily perform a cool sweep here. But please pay attention here, you still want to hear the individual notes. It shouldn't sound like that. It shouldn't be a rake. It's very tempting here because of the simplicity of the shape to play it very fast without actually practicing it. But I'm sure you can hear the difference. I really hope that you enjoyed this basic overview of the diminished scale and that it's enough to get you motivated to start practicing it. I also recorded a special backing track for all my patrons over at patreon.com/Bernd so they can practice the scale with the guitar profiles and PDF sheets I made for this lesson. If you're not part of my shred guitar community over on Patreon, you might consider joining. I post PDF files, practice backing tracks or guitar profiles for every single lesson that I post here on YouTube. And I'm in direct contact with all patrons. They send me homework exercises, audio or video recordings, and I get back to them with individual coaching. That's it from my side for now. My voice is pretty much gone, as you can hear. I had to pre-record a lot of video lessons since I'm on tour in the upcoming weeks in Germany and Austria. I really hope that I meet a couple of you guys at the shows. Once again, just drop me a message whenever you're attending one of the concerts I'm playing with Seiler und Speer. As you probably know, I really enjoy nerding out about all things guitar. In the end, please make sure to subscribe to join this YouTube community, leave a like in case you enjoyed the video, that always really means a lot to me, and a comment in case I can answer any questions for you. I hope you have a great day and a lot of fun practicing, and I will see you soon. All the best until then.